I always believed that the foundation of a strong family lies in unwavering trust and mutual respect. From the day Emma and I exchanged vows, I committed myself to being the steadfast rock she could rely on, and together, we built a life that many would envy. Our home was a sanctuary, filled with laughter, love, and the pitter-patter of our 2 children's feet. Every morning, I woke up with gratitude, knowing I was blessed with a loving wife and a beautiful family. Emma was a force to be reckoned with, intelligent, ambitious, and undeniably strong-willed. She pursued her career with the same passion she dedicated to our marriage, often juggling late nights at the office with early mornings getting the kids ready for school. I admired her drive and the way she could handle any situation with grace and determination. However, beneath that admirable exterior, there were moments when her temper flared, and her words could cut deeper than intended. She had a sharp tongue, especially when things didn't go her way, and I often found myself smoothing over the rough edges to maintain the peace at home. Our relationship was far from perfect, but it was built on a solid ground of love and commitment. We had our share of arguments, like any couple, but they were fleeting and never touched the core of our bond. I prided myself on being a confident and protective husband, always putting our family's needs above my own. Whether it was staying up late to help the kids with their homework or handling unexpected crises at work, I was there, unwavering. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, Emma and I sat down for our usual nightly conversation. She seemed distracted, her eyes distant as she sipped her tea. "Is everything okay at work?" I asked, noticing the strain in her voice. She sighed, setting her cup down with a deliberate slowness. "It's just been a hectic week. I'm exhausted." I reached out, taking her hand in mine. "I know you've been pushing yourself hard. Maybe you need a break." She glanced at me, a flicker of frustration in her eyes. "Maybe. But we can't afford to take time off right now. The projects are piling up." I nodded, understanding the pressure she was under. "If you need anything, I'm here to help." As we sat there in silence, the weight of our responsibilities pressing down on us, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Emma was usually so composed, so in control. Tonight felt different, there was an undercurrent of tension that I couldn't quite place. I decided not to press further, respecting her need for space. Little did I know, this sense of unease was the calm before the storm. Unbeknownst to me, Emma's world was about to collide with her past in a way that would shatter the life we had carefully constructed together. The seeds of betrayal were being sown, and soon, the sanctuary we had built would be tested like never before. The days following our quiet, tension-filled evening were a blur of routine and subtle shifts. I noticed Emma becoming increasingly distant, her laughter less frequent and her smiles more forced. She was always the epitome of grace under pressure, but lately, something seemed off. Her late nights at the office became more frequent, and when she was home, her mind seemed elsewhere. Determined to understand what was happening, I began to pay closer attention. I noticed the way her phone buzzed incessantly, always with unknown numbers and messages she hurriedly hid when I approached. My protective instincts kicked in, I couldn't bear the thought of anything threatening our family's harmony. I decided to have an open and honest conversation, believing that communication was the cornerstone of our marriage. One Saturday afternoon, while the kids were at soccer practice, I approached Emma in the kitchen. She was preparing lunch, her movements brisk and almost mechanical. "Emma, we need to talk," I said gently, sensing her unease. She looked up, her eyes flashing with irritation. "Now. I'm busy, Alex. Can it wait?" I took a deep breath, striving to remain calm. "No, it can't. I've been feeling like something's changed between us. I want to understand what's going on." Her facade cracked for a moment, revealing a flicker of vulnerability before being replaced by defensiveness. "There's nothing to talk about. I'm just stressed with work. Why are you making a big deal out of nothing?" Before I could respond, her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, her expression hardening. "Excuse me," she muttered, stepping away to take the call. I watched as she spoke in hushed tones, her demeanor shifting from composed to visibly agitated. Curiosity and concern gnawed at me. After she finished, Emma returned to her tasks, her tone icy. "I have to go out this evening. There's a last-minute meeting I can't miss." "Another work meeting?" I pressed, hoping to find a reasonable explanation. She scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Not a meeting, Alex. I'm meeting someone. It's personal." Confusion and a sense of foreboding settled over me. "Who are you meeting, Emma?" Her eyes narrowed, and she crossed her arms defiantly. "That's none of your business."
I can handle my own affairs without you prying.
The sting of her rejection cut deep, but my resolve to protect our family only strengthened. I decided to trust my instincts and discreetly followed her after she left the house. My heart pounded with a mixture of fear and determination as I trailed her through the bustling streets, maintaining a safe distance. Emma led me to a familiar part of town where a grand hotel stood, its ornate facade a stark contrast to the modest home we shared. She checked in without hesitation, her demeanor unchanged as she handed over her ID. I lingered in the shadows, watching as she met with a man I hadn't seen in years, Daniel, her ex-boyfriend from college. The sight sent a chill down my spine. Daniel had always been a charismatic yet manipulative presence in Emma's past, and seeing them together stirred memories I had long tried to bury.
My mind raced with questions and suspicions. What was the nature of their meeting? Had Emma been unhappy for so long that she sought solace in the arms of someone familiar?
As I observed from a distance, the truth began to unfold in the most painful way possible. Through the large hotel window, I saw Emma and Daniel together, their bodies entwined in a way that left no room for doubt. The rawness of their connection, the undeniable intimacy, it was a betrayal that shattered the foundation of trust one had worked so hard to build. My emotions surged: anger, hurt, confusion, all battling within me. I felt as though the ground beneath my feet had given way, leaving me adrift in a sea of disbelief. How could Emma, the woman I loved and cherished, turn against our vows and our family? In that moment, every protective instinct I had for our family seemed to falter under the weight of her betrayal. I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, but a part of me feared what I might discover next. The calm before the storm had finally given way, and the true tempest was just beginning. The chill of betrayal settled deep within me as I stood there, watching Emma and Daniel through the hotel window. Every fiber of my being screamed to turn away, to deny the reality unfolding before my eyes. But there was no denying it. The woman I had vowed to love and protect was with another man, her ex. My heart pounded in my chest, a relentless drum of anger and hurt. I took a moment to steady myself, breathing deeply to quell the rising tide of emotions. This was my family, our life, the very thing I had worked tirelessly to build and shield from harm. Yet, here it was, teetering on the edge of ruin. Determined to confront her, I waited until they left the room. The door clicked shut behind them, and the corridor outside was quiet, the muffled sounds of their laughter lingering in the air. I felt a surge of resolve. I wasn't going to let this betrayal go unnoticed or unchallenged. Entering the lobby, I kept my composure, every step measured and deliberate. I approached the front desk, purchasing a non-refundable reservation at the same hotel for that night. It was a calculated move, ensuring I wouldn't have to lose sight of them again. As I checked in, the receptionist gave me a curious glance, but I paid her no mind. My focus was unwavering. Later that evening, as Emma returned home, visibly exhausted from her meeting, I awaited her in the living room. The kids were already asleep, their innocent dreams untouched by the turmoil brewing between us. When Emma finally walked through the door, her demeanor was different, tense, guarded, and unmistakably on edge. "Emma," I began, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "We need to talk." She glanced at me, her eyes darting away before meeting mine with a mix of annoyance and defensiveness. "What is it now, Alex? Can't you see I'm tired?" I took a step closer, refusing to back down. "I know something's wrong. You've been distant, secretive. I saw you with Daniel at the hotel." Her face went pale for a split second before contorting into a mask of irritation. "Are you serious? How dare you invade my privacy like that?" "Don't lie to me," I countered, my frustration mounting. "I saw you both clearly." "What's going on, Emma?" She scoffed, crossing her arms defiantly. "I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you're just paranoid because things aren't perfect, as if they're supposed to be." The dismissiveness in her tone stung, but I pressed on. "Perfection isn't the issue. It's honesty. If there's something you need to tell me, now is the time." Her eyes flashed with anger, and she took a step toward me, her voice rising. "You think you're so perfect, don't you? Always the protector, always the hero. Maybe it's time someone stood up and told you that not everything revolves around your precious family." I felt a pang of hurt at her words, but I remained resolute. "Emma, please. Let's just talk about this like adults." Instead, she turned on her heel, her silhouette rigid with disdain. "There's nothing to talk about. Just leave me alone." As she walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The foundation we had built was cracking, and with each passing moment, the weight of her betrayal pressed harder on my chest. I knew that confronting her was necessary, but I also sensed that the road ahead would be fraught with more lies, more pain, and perhaps secrets neither of us were prepared to face.
Later that night, sleep eluded me. My mind raced with questions and doubts. Why her? Why Daniel? What did she see in him that she no longer saw in me? The protective husband within me ached to shield our family from this pain, but I also feared the depth of the wounds about to be inflicted. As dawn approached, a plan began to form. I needed to uncover the truth, no matter how painful. If Emma was slipping away, I had to find out why and how to bring her back or, if necessary, let her go. The battle for our family's future was about to commence, and I was determined to fight with everything I had. Little did I know, the threads of our lives were entwining in ways I couldn't have imagined, setting the stage for revelations that would challenge everything I believed about love, loyalty, and the lengths one would go to protect what truly matters. The days following my confrontation with Emma were a whirlwind of emotions and revelations. Every interaction with her felt like walking on a tightrope, each step laden with uncertainty and the fear of further betrayal. I tried to maintain my composure, embodying the confident and protective husband I had always been, but inside, I was unraveling. Emma's behavior became increasingly erratic. She oscillated between moments of cold indifference and explosive anger, her sharp tongue cutting through any semblance of peace in our home. Simple conversations turned into battlegrounds, her words laced with sarcasm and hostility. It was as if she was deliberately pushing me away, testing the limits of my patience and resilience. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, I decided to give Emma some space, hoping that time would heal the growing rift between us. I settled into the living room with a book, trying to distract myself from the turmoil brewing within. The house was unusually quiet, the silence amplifying the tension that hung in the air. Suddenly, the front door slammed open, and Emma stormed in, her face flushed with anger. "Where have you been?" she demanded, her voice dripping with contempt. I looked up, startled by her sudden outburst. "I've been at work, Emma." Is there something you need?
She scoffed, tossing her keys onto the hallway table with reckless abandon.
"Oh, spare me the lies, Alex. I know you've been snooping around, following me like some kind of stalker."
I felt a surge of frustration but remained calm.
"I wasn't snooping. I saw you and Daniel at the hotel. We need to talk about this."
Her eyes blazed with fury.
"Talk about it? There's nothing to talk about.
You're just trying to control me because you can't handle the fact that I'm not perfect like you." Her words struck a nerve, but I stood my ground.
"Emma, I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to understand what's happening between us.
Why you're distancing yourself and seeking comfort elsewhere."
She laughed bitterly, shaking her head. "Comfort? From Daniel? You think he's my comfort? Please."
"He's just a pathetic reminder of a past I've long since moved on from."
"You're the one who's failing, Alex. Always so focused on the family, the house, the kids. What about me? What about my needs?"
Before I could respond, she turned and stormed into the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. I stood there, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and helplessness.
Our once harmonious home now felt like a battleground, each room echoing with the remnants of our fractured relationship.
Determined to salvage what remained, I decided to seek help. I reached out to a trusted friend, someone who had always been a pillar of support. Over coffee, I poured out my heart, explaining the turmoil Emma and I were going through.
My friend listened intently, offering a comforting presence. "Have you considered marriage counseling?" he suggested gently.
"Sometimes, having a neutral third party can help navigate through these tough times."
I nodded, appreciating his advice. "I want to try anything to fix this. I love Emma and our family too much to let it fall apart without a fight." Encouraged by his words, I scheduled our first counseling session for the following week. It was a small beacon of hope amidst the chaos, a chance to bridge the widening gap between us. Meanwhile, Emma continued to spiral. Her interactions with Daniel didn't cease, if anything, they intensified, fueled by her growing resentment and dissatisfaction. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to their relationship than mere chance encounters. The protective husband in me was determined to uncover the truth, even as I struggled to keep my own emotions in check. One night, as I was leaving for work, I noticed a series of unfamiliar receipts in the kitchen drawer: dinners at upscale restaurants, hotel bookings, all in Emma's name. My heart sank as the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. This wasn't just about an old flame, it was a calculated series of actions to distance herself from our life and our family. The realization hit me hard. Emma wasn't just seeking comfort,
she was systematically dismantling the life we had built together.
Anger and betrayal surged within me, but I reminded myself to stay grounded. Reacting impulsively would only exacerbate the situation.
Instead, I focused on the plan we had set in motion, seeking help, understanding her needs, and fighting to protect our family. As I drove to work that morning, the weight of the situation bore down on me. I glanced in the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of Emma in the passenger seat, her expression unreadable. In that moment, I vowed to remain steadfast, to be the unwavering support our family needed, even as the foundations threatened to crumble beneath us. The counseling sessions became a pivotal part of our lives, a structured attempt to bridge the widening chasm between Emma and me. Dr. Reynolds was a seasoned therapist, her calm demeanor and insightful questions providing a semblance of hope amidst the turmoil. I entered each session with a mixture of determination and vulnerability, eager to salvage the marriage I cherished so deeply.
Emma, however, seemed resistant to the process.
She attended the sessions half-heartedly, her responses curt and defensive. Her sharp tongue remained as cutting as ever, often turning the sessions into battlegrounds rather than avenues for healing. "Why are we even here?" she snapped one evening, her frustration palpable.
"This is all your fault. If you hadn't been so controlling, maybe things wouldn't be this bad."
I felt a pang of hurt at her accusations, but I remained steadfast.
"Emma, I'm not trying to control you.
I just want us to communicate better, to understand each other's needs." She scoffed, her eyes flashing with contempt.
"Needs? What about my needs, Alex? You never consider mine."
"It's always about the family, the house, the kids."
"What about me? I'm a person too, you know."
Her words echoed the silent grievances I had long suspected but never fully comprehended.
Emma's frustration stemmed not just from our marital issues but from a deeper sense of neglect and unfulfillment. The realization was both enlightening and devastating.
I had poured myself into being the protective husband and father, perhaps at the expense of recognizing Emma's own desires and struggles. Determined to address the root of her dissatisfaction, I took a step back to evaluate our relationship. I began small planning date nights, listening more attentively, and encouraging her to pursue her interests outside of work.
Slowly, I noticed subtle shifts in her behavior.
There were moments of softness, brief instances where her guard lowered, revealing the woman I had fallen in love with. Yet, the shadow of her affair with Daniel loomed large, a constant reminder that our bond had been fractured. I couldn't help but wonder if my efforts were enough to mend what had been broken or if the damage was irreparable. The protective instinct within me drove me to continue fighting for our family, but the uncertainty gnawed at my confidence.
One evening, as I was preparing dinner, I found a series of emails on Emma's laptop messages between her and Daniel that were anything but platonic.
The content was explicit, revealing a depth of intimacy that went beyond mere friendship.
My heart sank as I realized the extent of their affair.
It wasn't just occasional meetings, it was a calculated and ongoing deception.
Confronting Emma with this evidence was the hardest decision I had to make.
I felt a whirlwind of emotions: anger, betrayal, sorrow, each vying for dominance within me. Summoning all my courage, I approached her as she was setting the table.
"Emma, we need to talk," I said, my voice trembling slightly.
She looked up, a flicker of nervousness crossing her features before her usual mask of defiance returned.
"About what, Alex?" I took a deep breath, holding up my laptop where the emails were open. "These messages. Care to explain them?"
Her eyes darted to the screen, panic momentarily replacing her usual composure.
"Alex, you don't understand. It's not what you think."
I felt my protective instincts surge.
"Not what I think. These aren't just innocent conversations. They're intimate." "Why, Emma? Why with Daniel?"
She pushed past me, her voice rising.
"Because you're never there for me. You think being a father and a husband is all I need?"
"I need someone who understands me, who respects me, not someone who sidelines me for the sake of the family." Her outburst was a brutal revelation of her pent-up frustrations.
It wasn't just the affair, it was a culmination of years of unmet needs and unspoken resentments.
I felt a profound sadness, realizing that in my quest to protect and provide, I had neglected the very person I vowed to cherish. As the days that followed were filled with tense conversations and emotional confrontations, I found myself at a crossroads. The love I had for Emma was still there, but the path to reclaiming it was obscured by pain and mistrust. I knew that rebuilding our relationship would require more than just surface-level changes. It demanded a deep, honest examination of our lives and the compromises we had made. One night, after another heated argument, I sat alone in the quiet of our bedroom, reflecting on everything that had transpired.
The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on my shoulders. I was the protector, the provider, the anchor of our family, but now I felt adrift, unsure of how to navigate the storm that had engulfed us. Just as I was about to succumb to despair, my phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Reynolds: "Tonight at 8 p.m., emergency session." My heart raced. What could have prompted an emergency session so soon? I called Emma, but she didn't answer. A sense of urgency propelled me to head to the counseling center, hoping to find answers and perhaps a glimmer of the connection we once shared. As I drove, memories of happier times flashed before my eyes: our wedding day, the birth of our children, the laughter and love that had once filled our home. Arriving at the center, I was ushered into Dr. Reynolds' office, where Emma was already seated, her expression a mixture of fear and vulnerability. The sight of her in such a state stirred a mix of emotions within me: compassion, anger, and a lingering love that refused to fade. Dr. Reynolds addressed us both, her tone gentle yet firm. "This is a crucial moment for both of you. Emma, Alex, you need to be honest about your feelings and what you both want moving forward." Emma took a shaky breath, her eyes meeting mine with a raw honesty I hadn't seen before. "I don't know if I can fix this, Alex. I feel so lost." I reached out, taking her hand in mine, a gesture of both desperation and hope. "I don't want to lose you, Emma. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right." In that moment, I realized that the journey ahead would be arduous, filled with challenges and painful truths. But the love I held for my family was unwavering. I was determined to fight for our home, to restore the trust that had been shattered, and to rekindle the love that had once been the bedrock of our lives. As we left the counseling session that night, the future remained uncertain. Yet, amidst the chaos and heartache, a flicker of hope remained: a belief that with effort, understanding, and unwavering commitment, we could navigate the cracks in our facade and rebuild the family we both so desperately wanted to save. The weeks that followed our emergency counseling session were some of the most tumultuous of my life. Emma and I continued to attend therapy, each session feeling like navigating a minefield of emotions and unspoken grievances. Dr. Reynolds provided a safe space, but the tension between us often made progress seem elusive. One Saturday morning, as I was preparing breakfast, I noticed Emma acting unusually secretive. She was hurriedly packing a bag, her movements brisk and deliberate. Curiosity gnawed me, but I resisted the urge to pry. Instead, I focused on getting the kids ready for school, hoping that giving her space might ease some of the tension. After dropping the children off, I returned home to find the living room in disarray. It looked as though a storm had passed through: cushions strewn about, papers scattered across the coffee table. My heart sank, sensing that whatever was happening was more chaotic than our already strained relationship. I found Emma sitting on the couch, her face a mask of frustration. "What's going on, Emma?" I asked gently, trying to keep my tone calm despite the unease settling in my chest. She looked up, her eyes flashing with anger. "I can't do this anymore, Alex. I need to get away." Before I could respond, she stood up abruptly, grabbing her bag. "I need some time to think. Maybe a short trip will help clear my head." I reached out, attempting to grasp her hand. "Emma, please. We're going through this together. Running away isn't the answer." She pulled away, her expression hardening. "You just don't get it, do you? I'm suffocated by this house, by our so-called perfect family. I need freedom." As she headed toward the door, I felt a surge of desperation. "Where are you going?" She paused, glancing back at me with a mixture of pity and disdain. "Somewhere I can breathe. Maybe visit an old friend." Her vague response only deepened my suspicions. Old friends? It was too vague, too convenient. My mind raced back to Daniel, the ex I had seen at the hotel. Could Emma be reaching out to him again? Determined to get answers, I decided to follow her discreetly. My protective instincts surged, overriding any sense of doubt or fear. I grabbed my jacket and slipped out the back door, careful not to alert her. The drive was uneventful at first, but as we approached the outskirts of town, Emma took a turn onto a less familiar road. My heart pounded as I watched her car pull into an old, run-down motel, the kind that reeked of desperation and fleeting moments. Parking a safe distance away, I observed as Emma entered the motel with a purposeful stride. Minutes later, Daniel emerged, leaning against his car with a smug grin. The sight confirmed my worst fears: Emma had sought out her ex once more. My emotions spiraled: anger, betrayal, and a profound sense of helplessness. How had things deteriorated so quickly? I had fought to save our marriage, to understand her needs, but it seemed like every step forward was met with 2 steps back. As I watched from the shadows, a plan began to form. Confronting them now might lead to more chaos, more lies. Instead, I needed to gather more information to understand the true extent of Emma's intentions. Was this affair a fleeting lapse, or was there a deeper, more sinister motive at play? The following days were a blur of investigation and sleepless nights. I discreetly followed Emma, documenting her movements, and reached out to mutual acquaintances for any insights into her sudden change in behavior. What I uncovered was both shocking and unsettling. Emma had been involved in a series of questionable financial decisions at work, investments that seemed too risky, partnerships with dubious individuals. When I confronted her about it, she dismissed my concerns, accusing me of being paranoid and overbearing. It became clear that her dissatisfaction extended beyond our marriage. She was grappling with issues that threatened not only our relationship but also our financial stability. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together in a disturbing pattern. Emma's affair with Daniel wasn't just about seeking emotional solace, it was part of a larger scheme to secure her own position and independence, even if it meant jeopardizing everything we had built together. Feeling cornered and betrayed on multiple fronts, I struggled to maintain my composure. My protective nature compelled me to shield my family from the impending fallout, but the weight of Emma's deceit pressed heavily on my shoulders. Every revelation felt like a blow, undermining the trust and love that had once been the bedrock of our marriage. One evening, as I was poring over the evidence I'd gathered, Emma walked into the study, her expression a mix of defiance and desperation. "What are you doing, Alex?" I looked up, meeting her gaze with a mixture of sorrow and resolve. "Trying to understand, Emma. Why all of this?" She sighed, the facade of the unyielding woman momentarily slipping. "I didn't want it to come to this. I thought I could handle everything on my own." I stood up, taking a step toward her. "You don't have to handle anything alone. Let me help." Her eyes welled with unshed tears, a rare vulnerability exposing the pain beneath her abrasive exterior. "I thought I was doing the right thing, but everything's falling apart. I don't know how to fix it." In that moment, amidst the chaos and betrayal, a flicker of the woman I once knew shone through. It was a reminder that beneath the layers of lies and resentment, there was still someone who cared deeply about our family and her own well-being. As I reached out to comfort her, I realized that the path to healing would require more than just uncovering the truth. It would demand forgiveness, understanding, and an unwavering commitment to rebuilding what had been broken. The twists and turns of our journey were far from over, but the love I held for Emma and our family remained a beacon of hope in the midst of the storm. The revelation of Emma's deeper issues left me reeling. It wasn't just an affair or financial missteps, there was something far more intricate and unsettling at play. Determined to uncover the full extent of her actions, I delved deeper into the tangled web she had spun, each discovery more disheartening than the last. One evening, as I sifted through the stack of documents and emails I had gathered, I stumbled upon a series of encrypted files on Emma's work computer. My curiosity piqued, I enlisted the help of a trusted colleague, Mark, who had some expertise in cybersecurity. Together, we managed to decrypt the files, revealing a hidden side of Emma's professional life that I had never imagined. Emma had been involved in a high-stakes investment scheme, one that promised substantial returns but was riddled with risks and ethical ambiguities. She had partnered with dubious individuals, leveraging our family's savings and future to fuel her ambition. The more I read, the clearer it became that Emma wasn't just seeking personal fulfillment, she was orchestrating a financial coup that could either secure our family's prosperity or obliterate everything we held dear. Confronting Emma about the investment was another layer of betrayal. I had always admired her ambition, but this was different. "Emma, what is all this?" I demanded, holding up the documents. She sneered, her eyes cold and defiant. "Oh, so now you're interested in my business ventures? Maybe if you weren't so focused on being the perfect husband and father, you'd understand the importance of my work." Her dismissive attitude only fueled my frustration. "This isn't about understanding, Emma. You're risking our family's future on these questionable deals. What if something goes wrong?" She laughed bitterly, a harsh sound that grated against my nerves. "Do you really think I haven't thought about that? I'm taking calculated risks to ensure our future. Unlike you, I'm not content with mediocrity." Her words stung, but beneath her abrasive exterior, I sensed a flicker of vulnerability. "Emma, we can discuss this together. We're supposed to be a team." She rolled her eyes, her demeanor shifting to one of outright hostility. "A team? Is that what you call it when you micromanage every aspect of my life? Maybe it's time I found someone who actually supports me instead of holding me back." The room seemed to close in around me as her accusations hung in the air. It was clear that Emma saw me as an obstacle rather than a partner, someone who hindered her pursuit of success. The protective husband within me struggled to reconcile this image of the woman I loved with the manipulative, self-centered person standing before me. Determined not to let Emma's actions jeopardize our family, I decided to take control of the situation. I contacted our financial advisor, detailing the risky investments and seeking advice on how to mitigate potential losses. Simultaneously, I reached out to law enforcement, sharing the evidence of Emma's questionable dealings. It was a drastic step, but I couldn't stand by and watch our family's future crumble. The confrontation that followed was explosive. Emma stormed into the living room, her face contorted with rage. "You ungrateful bastard! Do you have any idea what this means? You're ruining everything I've worked for." I stood my ground, refusing to be intimidated. "Emma, this isn't about ruining anything. It's about protecting our family from reckless decisions. You can't keep putting us through this." She lunged at me, her hands clenched into fists. "Protecting us? You're just trying to control me. Maybe it's time I enjoyed the fruits of my labor without your pathetic interference." The fight escalated quickly, with Emma unleashing years of pent-up resentment and anger. Her insults were sharp, her demeanor unapologetically hostile. "You're nothing but a puppet, Alex. Always following the rules, always playing it safe. Maybe I need someone who dares to live a little." As she hurled abuse at me, I felt a surge of helplessness. The woman I had pledged to love and protect was tearing our family apart with her deceit and aggression. It was a stark reminder that the battle for our marriage was far from over, and the stakes were higher than I had ever imagined. In the days that followed, the tension in our home reached a boiling point. Emma became increasingly volatile, her behavior erratic and unpredictable. She alternated between moments of extreme anger and inexplicable withdrawal, leaving me in a constant state of uncertainty. Our children, sensing the discord, became more subdued, their innocent smiles replaced by anxious glances and hushed conversations. One afternoon, as I was trying to mediate yet another argument, Emma handed me a stack of papers. "Take these to my lawyer," she demanded, her voice dripping with contempt. "I'm filing for divorce." The words hit me like a physical blow. Divorce was something I had never imagined, a word that carried the weight of finality and loss. "Emma, please. Let's not do this. We can work through our issues." She laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Work through them? After everything? It's too late, Alex. You never understood me, never gave me what I needed. I'm done." As she left the room, I felt a profound sense of failure. The confident, protective husband I had always been seemed to crumble under the pressure of Emma's relentless attacks and hidden agendas. The twists and turns of our relationship had led us to a place of irreparable damage, and I couldn't help but wonder if there was any way back from the abyss we had fallen into. Desperate to salvage what remained, I intensified my efforts in counseling, seeking every possible avenue to bridge the gap between us. But with each passing day, the distance only grew, the chasm between us widening beyond repair. Emma's lies and manipulations had taken their toll, leaving me to navigate the wreckage of a marriage that once held so much promise. As I sat alone in the quiet of our now fractured home, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. The man I had always been, the loving husband, the devoted father, felt lost in a maze of betrayal and deceit. Yet, amidst the darkness, a faint spark of hope remained. I couldn't abandon our family without a fight, no matter how insurmountable the challenges seemed. Little did I know, the true extent of Emma's plans was yet to be revealed, and the final twists in our tumultuous story would test the very limits of my resilience and love. The courtroom loomed ahead, its imposing facade a stark contrast to the once warm and inviting home Emma and I had shared. The reality of divorce proceedings was finally upon us, a culmination of months filled with betrayal, anger, and unspoken pain. As I sat in the waiting area, the weight of the situation pressed heavily on my shoulders. My mind raced through the events that had led us here, each memory a reminder of the life we were about to dismantle. Emma's decision to file for divorce had come as both a shock and an inevitability. Her relentless accusations, her manipulative tactics, and the revelation of her financial schemes had stripped away any remnants of the woman I thought I knew. She had transformed from a loving wife into a boorish antagonist, driven by selfish desires and a blatant disregard for our family's well-being. As I awaited my call, I couldn't help but reflect on the man I had always strived to be: confident, protective, and unwavering in my commitment to our family. I had poured myself into being the pillar of strength, ensuring our children never felt the instability that was now tearing our lives apart. Yet, despite my efforts, Emma had found ways to undermine everything we had built together.
The door swung open, and my lawyer called my name. Taking a deep breath, I stood up, straightening my tie, and followed him into the courtroom.
The sight that greeted me was both familiar and foreign.
Emma sat across the room, her posture defiant, her eyes cold and unyielding. She wore a tailored suit, a stark departure from the woman I once knew, exuding an air of control and determination that was both intimidating and unsettling. The proceedings began with the usual formalities, each step a reminder of the finality of what was about to transpire. As the judge called the session to order, I felt a surge of emotions: anger, sadness, and a lingering love that refused to be extinguished. But beneath it all was a resolute determination to protect my children and preserve what was left of our family's integrity.
Emma wasted no time in presenting her case.
Her words were sharp, laced with accusations and blatant attempts to shift blame onto me. "Alex, you've always been so focused on being the perfect husband and father, but you neglected my needs," she declared, her voice dripping with disdain.
"I needed someone who could support me in my ambitions, not hold me back."
Her narrative was a carefully constructed facade, designed to paint me as the villain in our story.
But I knew the truth.
I had always supported her, encouraged her career, and prioritized our family's happiness above all else. Her lies were transparent, a desperate attempt to mask her own failures and shortcomings. As the hearing progressed, I presented evidence of Emma's financial misdeeds, documents detailing her risky investments, emails showcasing her manipulative behavior, and testimonies from colleagues who had witnessed her unethical practices. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as the truth began to surface, unraveling the web of deception Emma had spun around herself.
Despite the mounting evidence, Emma remained unrepentant.
She continued to berate me, her words becoming increasingly vulgar and disrespectful.
"You're nothing but a controlling tyrant, Alex."
"I deserve better than this," she spat, her tone leaving no room for doubt about her intentions.
The judge listened patiently, occasionally interjecting with questions to clarify the presented facts.
As the session neared its end, it was clear that Emma's actions had not only jeopardized our marriage but also our family's financial stability. Her deceit had far-reaching consequences, affecting not just our immediate lives but the future of our children. As the judge adjourned the hearing, the reality of the situation settled in.
Emma's manipulations had cost us everything: our home, our savings, and the stability we had once enjoyed. But amidst the devastation, a sense of clarity emerged.
I had done everything within my power to save our marriage, to understand her needs, and to protect our family. Her actions were a reflection of her own insecurities and misguided ambitions, not a failure on my part.
Leaving the courtroom, I felt a mixture of relief and sorrow.
The battle was over, and while the outcome was heartbreaking, it was a necessary step towards healing. Our children deserved a stable and loving environment, free from the chaos that had plagued our lives for so long. As I stepped into the cool evening air, I vowed to rebuild, to focus on what truly mattered: our children's happiness and well-being.
However, the story was far from over.
As I drove away from the courthouse, my phone buzzed with a message that would send ripples through the fragile semblance of peace I was beginning to grasp. It was from an unknown number, and the content was both shocking and unsettling.
"This is just the beginning. Emma has plans that will affect you more than you can imagine. Be prepared."
A chill ran down my spine as I stared at the screen.
What did Emma mean by this? Had her manipulations extended beyond our personal lives?
The protective instinct within me flared once more, igniting a determination to uncover the full extent of her schemes. The twists and turns of our tumultuous relationship were revealing a darkness I had never anticipated, hinting at secrets that could threaten everything I held dear. As I pondered the implications of the cryptic message, I knew that my journey was far from over. The true depths of Emma's deception were yet to be uncovered, and the path to safeguarding my family was about to become even more treacherous. With renewed resolve, I prepared myself for the challenges ahead, determined to face whatever lay beneath the surface of Emma's intricate web of lies. As the days turned into weeks following the courtroom ordeal, I tried to find solace in the semblance of normalcy I was striving to rebuild. The children needed stability, and I was determined to provide it, shielding them from the chaos that had consumed our lives. Our home, though now mine alone, felt empty without Emma's presence, a stark reminder of what we had lost. However, the cryptic message I received that evening lingered in my mind, casting a shadow over my attempts to move forward.
"This is just the beginning. Emma has plans that will affect you more than you can imagine. Be prepared." The uncertainty of its meaning gnawed at me, fueling a sense of unease that I couldn't shake.
One morning, as I was sorting through some of Emma's belongings, I stumbled upon a hidden compartment in her closet. Inside, there were several documents and a flash drive labeled confidential. My heart raced as I realized there was more to Emma's schemes than I had initially uncovered. Carefully, I plugged the flash drive into my laptop, bracing myself for what I might find. The files revealed a labyrinth of deceit that extended far beyond our marriage. Emma had been involved in an elaborate embezzlement scheme at her workplace, siphoning funds from the company's accounts into offshore accounts. The scale of her operations was staggering, indicating a level of sophistication that suggested she wasn't acting alone. Names of accomplices, detailed financial transactions, and encrypted communications painted a picture of a woman deeply entrenched in criminal activities. Shock gave way to a cold, hard realization. Emma wasn't just destroying our family for personal satisfaction, she was orchestrating a financial empire built on lies and manipulation. The implications were terrifying. If the authorities were already onto her, or if her network discovered my investigation, the repercussions could be disastrous. Determined to protect my family and clear my name, I decided to take action. I contacted Mark, the colleague who had helped me decrypt the files earlier. Together, we meticulously went through the evidence, piecing together the extent of Emma's operations. It became evident that her plans were far-reaching, involving multiple shell companies and international contacts. She had meticulously covered her tracks, but the documentation provided a pathway to unravel her network. Late one night, as I pored over the documents, my phone rang. It was Mark, sounding urgent. "Alex, you need to see this. I think I've traced some of these transactions back to a major player in the financial underworld. Emma wasn't just embezzling funds, she was laundering money for them." A chill ran down my spine. The stakes were higher than I had anticipated. Emma wasn't just a deceitful wife, she was involved in criminal activities that could potentially endanger our entire family. Determined to confront her one last time, I arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a quiet cafe where we had shared happier moments. As I waited, my mind raced with questions and fears. What if Emma refused to cooperate? What if her connections turned violent to protect her secrets? Emma arrived promptly, her expression a mask of indifference that barely concealed the turmoil beneath. "Alex," she greeted coldly, taking a seat across from me. "I was wondering when you'd decide to show up." I took a deep breath, holding her gaze steadily. "Emma, I found the hidden files. I know about your financial schemes and your involvement with those people. It's over." Her eyes narrowed, a flicker of fear, or was it anger, passing through them. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "I know enough," I countered, sliding the flash drive across the table. "This is undeniable evidence of your activities. You're going to turn yourself in, Emma. It's the only way to protect our children and yourself." She leaned back, a sardonic smile playing on her lips. "You really think you can walk away from this? You have no idea what you're dealing with, Alex. I built something here that you could never understand or be a part of." Before I could respond, the cafe's atmosphere shifted. The door swung open, and a group of stern-looking individuals entered, their eyes scanning the room until they settled on us. Emma's facade crumbled, revealing a desperate side I hadn't seen before. "You shouldn't have interfered," she hissed, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and rage. One of the men stepped forward, his presence commanding and intimidating. "Miss Thompson, it's time to come with us." Panic surged through me. "Emma, don't do this. Let's talk, there's still a way out." But Emma's resolve was unshakable. "No, Alex. It's too late for that. You need to understand the consequences of your actions." As the men moved to apprehend her, I felt a surge of helplessness. This wasn't just about our marriage or her deceit anymore, it was about navigating a dangerous game where the stakes were life and death. My protective instincts flared, but I knew I had to stay calm to safeguard my children and myself from the fallout of Emma's elaborate schemes. As Emma was led away, her eyes met mine one last time, filled with a haunting mix of betrayal and regret. "This isn't the end, Alex. You have no idea what's coming." The cryptic message now made sense. Emma's plans were far from over, and her entanglement in the criminal underworld hinted at threats that could ripple through every aspect of my life. Determined to stay one step ahead, I knew I had to brace myself for the challenges that lay ahead. The battle to protect my family had taken a dark turn, and the true extent of Emma's deception was only beginning to unfold. With the weight of her departure pressing down on me, I vowed to uncover every layer of her machinations. The journey ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty, but my commitment to my family remained unwavering. As I left the cafe, the cool night air did little to quell the storm raging within me. The shadows of deception that Emma had cast were deep and far-reaching, and I was determined to navigate them, no matter the cost.